again, sizing up Murphy. Drives, floats, hangs, and scores on the turnaround. J-Dub way behind the three-point line and hits way behind the three-point line. Got blocked. What a rejection by Holmgren. Standing tall like a wall.
This is Udart. You're listening to the Uncontested.
What is up, Thunder fans, and welcome to the Uncontested post-game podcast. I apologize for the cough there during the intro. I did not realize that I was unmuted. I am your host for tonight, Taylor Peterson. You can find me on all social media platforms, X, we still call it Twitter. Most importantly, Blue Sky. My guy, my fella, Silva, and myself have been over there skeeting on Blue Sky. It's been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. So I encourage you all to head over there and engage with us. We also have an uncontested account over there that we're going to try and be a little more active on. So be sure to follow us there as well. Speaking of which, you can find us at The Uncontested on all social media platforms, YouTube, X, Blue Sky, you name it. We're there posting a lot of fun content throughout this first part of the season. It's been a ton of fun. Appreciate all of your guys' engagement and appreciate all of you tuning in live tonight. We are a proud part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and proudly brought to you all by Prairie Artisan Ales, a big sponsor of ours. I want to give them a big shout out. Tomorrow, they are having their anniversary party. I believe it's their 7th anniversary. So they're going to have all kinds of super cool beers on tap. They're having events going on throughout the entirety of the day. So be sure to stop over at the Prairie Ales tap room because they're going to have a lot of fun stuff going on. In fact, I believe the Uncontested guys will be making an appearance tomorrow around 11 or so, as Nick, myself, and Jacob are going to be playing some Thunder media pickup, playing in a pickup run tomorrow. Not going to go well for your guy here. I haven't played in a very long time. We'll see how that plays out for me. If I make it through without an injury, that's a win. But we are going to meet up, eat some food there. I believe Nick is going to pregame the Thunder media pickup run. All the power to him. I will not be doing so because I'll be dying without any beer in my system. All that being said, be sure to go and visit our friends over at the Prairie Tap Room for their anniversary party tomorrow. The Thunder get their 11th win of the season. They're now 11-2. They beat the Phoenix Suns 99-83. Super fun game. Another little aside, I'm going head-to-head here with the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight. So we'll see who does the bigger numbers. I was going to make a joke about Netflix crapping out on everybody. Apparently, a lot of people aren't able to watch it live because of all the demand. So maybe we'll get more of the numbers here in comparison to the fight. But really excited to break this one down. It was a ton of fun. First and foremost, just off the vibes only. Got to go to the game with my good friends Donnie and Joey. So that was really cool. We ate at our old friend of the podcast, Dave's Hot Chicken, before. Came into the game, got to watch it live. So that was really cool. And I also got to meet up with some very good friends, and Jacob and Nick, who were there. Nick was covering the game and had some great content from us from our X account. So that was really cool as well. Get to meet up with them. And honestly, like I said, the arena was really excited. Obviously, it's a fun team. The crowd was really excited. Friday night, end of the week. It's also a work night, I guess, for people who worked on Friday. And it wasn't as full as I would have expected. But no Kevin Durant, no Bradley Beal. That's a good thing to start with here. The Suns were without them, and it obviously showed, as we'll get into. But still, I thought the arena was popping. There were some big plays there, especially a J-Dub, an alley-oop from Kaysen to J-Dub there, I believe in the third quarter, that really got the fans on their feet, got them really excited. Some MVP chants for none other than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the line. And then Bol got some time there at the end of the blowout game for the Thunder, and came in for the Suns, and the fans were pretty excited to see Bol play. So before we dive into the game, just some big takeaways before we kind of get into a quick game breakdown and get into depth on some of these big takeaways. The first one, obviously, are the Thunder better without Chet Holmgren? Kidding. That's a joke. That's not one of my big takeaways. Obviously, I cannot wait to get Chet back, but the Thunder have looked really good without them, and that's extremely promising. We'll get into some of those thoughts with some of these big things. But my first real one, the Thunder defense. It's just absolutely insane. We'll get into some of those stats and some of what they did tonight. The Thunder young guys, Specifically, I want to talk about AJ, Oos, and Dylan Jones with this big takeaway. Both some positives and negatives there. The fouls free throw discrepancy. Mark Dignault was very, I guess we'll say, animated about that post game. I think that's incredibly fair. It's been a theme going back to last season. The Thunder driving to the rim as much as they do, not getting the calls. Pretty interesting. It's kind of what kept the Suns around there in the second quarter. The Thunder rebounding we'll get into, and also just the offense overall from OKC. They were incredible when it comes to points in the paint, but also not nearly as efficient as we've seen. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster for the OKC offense. So we'll get into that. We'll get into your Prairie Ales King of the Prairie player of the game, and then we'll get out of here and maybe catch the end of the big fight. So like I said, I guess jumping into kind of the game breakdown, the Thunder started out the game shooting a lot of threes, and a lot of those were from Lu Dort. Lu Dort shots, let's see. He was 0 of 3 to start the game. I think the Thunder only had like 2 other points, maybe 3 other points. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was J-Dub who hit the first shot. Lou goes 0 of 3 from 3, hits his 4th one, and that puts the Thunder up 6-4, which is pretty incredible. That's now Lou's, that's a made 3 for Lou in 12 straight games. The Thunder's first 12 points all came from the 3-point line. They attempted 10 shots total. I think it was about midway through the first quarter, and 8 of those were from 3. And I think the big part of that was the Suns obviously noticing and knowing that the Thunder were going to play small and just letting them take those outside attempts. That didn't work out well from the Suns. At the end of the first quarter, it was 29-14 OKC. Thunder shot 48% from the floor overall. Only 4 of 12 from 3. Honestly, they weren't fantastic, but what that did is it opened up space the floor for OKC, and then they were able to do what they do best, which is get to the rim. And I thought that was really impressive. In the second quarter, it was an absolute, just honestly, it was brutal. Tons of fouls on OKC side led to a lot of Nurkic free throws, which he missed, which was hilarious. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Royce O'Neal maybe went like 1 of 2. He also missed, but it just kind of disrupted the flow of the game, disrupted the pace of the game. And I was sitting there, like I said, with 2 of my friends, and we just kind of talked about, man, this is a rough second quarter. Thunder aren't hitting. And then there was a period after the free throws where the Thunder aren't hitting shots. Suns aren't hitting shots. You're just running up and down the floor. It was pretty ugly overall. But that being said, and we'll get into the defense, but the defense was fantastic. They held the Suns to 36 first half points. And guess what? Devin Booker, I mean, obviously without KD, without Bradley Beal, held to 0 points in the first half. We'll get into that. Third quarter, that's when the Thunder put the pedal to the metal. It was just pretty incredible. We saw Isaiah Joe. I thought he had a really good spark there in the third quarter, where on one end of the floor, he wasn't really hitting his 3-point shots, but I thought he had a fantastic game and impacted the floor on both ends, even without going like, sometimes we see him go 4 of 8 from 3 or whatever it is. He drives to the rim on one possession early in the through through like 3 different defenders, puts up like some behind the back, like finish, and is able to finish the layup. On the very next possession, he goes and draws the charge. Just absolutely incredible stuff from Isaiah Joe. I think I had a stat here about Isaiah. Yeah. This is from Nick Gallo of OKC Thunder. He's racked up 9 offensive fouls taken over the first 13 games. So it's not just Lu Dort who's drawing these offensive fouls. It's guys like Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins. It's pretty incredible. And that's what makes this small ball lineup so impressive, I think. Thunder outscored the Suns 35-24 in the third. Just complete domination. Like I said, the Suns just have no answer outside of Booker when KD and Beal aren't playing. There's just no other creators. And the Thunder just dared all those other players to make plays, and they weren't able to. On top of them, just continue to play that tenacious, like swarming defense. And that was pretty much it. Fourth quarter, the Thunder just, again, a lot of the same. Wasn't really anything to note, honestly. The Suns didn't make any big comeback. The Thunder just kind of had they kept going steady. And I found this interesting. They kept they subbed Shea back in with about 7 minutes left. J-Dub back in with about like 6 to 5 minutes left. They kept their starters in there for a while. And I didn't think about this until I saw Worldwide Wob, Rob Perez on Twitter, mention this, but point differential matters in these NBA Cup games. And I can't help but wonder, especially since the Thunder, I'm trying to remember if I have this tweet saved from none other than our own Nick Crane. I'll go ahead and pull it up right now. Great podcasting. But I think this is part of it. The Thunder has a 12.92 point differential this season, which is the largest in NBA history for any team through 13 games. That's a plus 168 this season in total. That means the Thunder are blowing teams out, even without Chet Holmgren. And the reason I mention that, especially in this game, is because it's the NBA Cup. If it comes down to a tie or whatever it may be, the point differential matters. So I do wonder if that's the reason that Mark kind of played those guys there later into the fourth quarter than he otherwise would have. But on top of that, the Thunder have been blowing teams out. And so these guys haven't played a ton of minutes, the J-Dubs, the Shays, etc. And so it was a good time to get them a little extra burn as well. They have another night in between before they play again Sunday. So that's the game breakdown. Let's go ahead. Shout out my guy, Jacob Niffin's hair in the chat. I asked him in the Discord. Oh, I didn't even mention the Discord. Guess it's a good time to bring up the Patreon. But I asked him in the Patreon to keep me posted on the fight, and the fight is just now starting. So maybe I'll catch the very end unless it only goes a couple rounds, which it might. But shout out Emo Jacob Niffin's hair. He keeps updating the hair due on his Avia Jacob, which is pretty funny. Let's get into my first takeaway. Not the Chet one. That was a joke. But the Thunder defense, just absolutely insane. Holds the Phoenix Suns to 83 points. They forced another 14 turnovers. They had 20 points off those turnovers, excuse me. And the big thing here, small ball, right? We talked so much about that. We saw what Nurkic did against this team last year when he had like a 20-20 game or whatever it was. That's just off the top of my head. And the Thunder were still able to win. Well, tonight, that wasn't the case. You look at Nurkic's numbers, 4 points, 8 rebounds. That's it. 0 of 7 from the floor. Did not make a single field goal attempt. All of his points come from the free throw line. Crazy. Only 8 rebounds. And then the other big thing here is Devin Booker. Without any real help alongside him, the Thunder just absolutely clamped him. 12 points, 2 of 10 from the floor, 8 of 8 from the free throw line. Again, that goes to my other big takeaway about the free throw discrepancy. I mean, the only reason those two really scored much at all in the second half was because of the free throws. Again, Devin Booker held to 0 points in the first half. Nurkic, I'm not even sure. I think he maybe had like 2 of those free throws in the first half. It doesn't matter. Just absolutely insane. They were swarming the Suns. They continue to do that. And I think there's no better like epitome of that, no better example of that than in the third quarter, I believe, where you had Dort guarding Booker, turns him inside. J-Dub collapses in, strips the ball from Booker, as we've seen. He's pushing the pace in transition, finds Cason Wallace. Cason Wallace finds him right back, throws the alley-oop for a big-time alley-oop slam dunk, and Paycom was on their feet. That is the epitome of Thunder small ball, and it was on full display tonight. Just absolutely insane. The Thunder hold the Suns to 29.3% from the floor. No, that's not from 3. 29.3% from the floor. 22 of 75 shooting. 9 of 37 from 3, which is just absolutely insane. 24% from the floor. The Suns just had no answer. They couldn't penetrate and get to the rim, so they jacked up 37 three-point attempts, which were all terrible. And the ones that weren't, that were open, is because the Thunder were letting those other guys shoot those attempts because there was no Bradley Beal. There was no Kevin Durant, and it worked in their favor. Thunder was just defense, which is absolutely insane. I think I had some more stats about that, but that's fine. I mean, we've seen this Thunder defense perform at this level. The small ball's insane. That's one thing that Mark Daydon't mentioned in his post game is, look, yes, we're going to get Isaiah Hartenstein back soon. It's going to be great for the team to get some of these bigs back, like Isaiah Hartenstein and Jay Will. But we're getting very good data on the small ball lineup, and this is something we obviously can go to. And so that just is more exciting to me. We talked about what will this look like with Chet being out. Are we talking about 53 wins instead of 60 wins or whatever? Here the Thunder are still blowing out teams, and that's really exciting. So to be able to get a Hartenstein back, eventually a J Will back a couple weeks later, hopefully, and then eventually Chet, and you still have the small ball, this lethal small ball, and multiple lineups within the small ball to be able to go to, I think that was incredibly impressive. My next, I'm seeing We Love You, Taylor. Okay. We lovingly pick on Taylor. I was making sure I didn't mess anything up. You guys are just, wait, maybe I did. I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to stop reading the chat because that makes for bad podcasting. My next one here is the Thunder Young Guys. And specifically, I want to talk about AJ Mitchell, Ousmane Dieng, and Dillon Jones. Starting out with AJ, I made a tweet, a halfway joke during the game that this is now an AJ Mitchell podcast that talks about Thunder basketball because AJ is just awesome. He's always doing the right things. Had 7 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 of 7 from the floor, 1 of 2 from 3, 22 minutes, led all bench players because honestly, I thought he was the best bench player for the Thunder, and that's a rookie on a 2-way contract. He just contributes at such a high level. And what's really interesting to me is I've been thinking a lot about the second unit. We saw this last year heading into the season. This time a year ago, I was thinking we'd see maybe some more Josh Giddey, running the second unit as a true point guard. Instead, it was J-Dub. That was kind of surprising to me, but in hindsight, obviously, it makes a lot of sense. This season, J-Dub's in there kind of running the second unit, but it hasn't been super effective. I don't want to get into all that with J-Dub tonight, although J-Dub, again, it's been really solid. But they need an AJ Mitchell to come in and kind of help set the pace and kind of set the floor for other teammates with that second lineup, that second unit lineup. And AJ's been incredible at it. The defense he's playing, he's competing at a high level, which is why Mark's keeping him in. And on the offensive side of the ball, not a great three-point shooter. We know that. Still struggling going to his right hand. But some of the plays he's making, he's cutting off ball, moving off ball, which we know the Thunder love and works so well within this flow of the offense. He's getting to the rim. He had a play there, I believe. I can't remember if it's the first half or the second half, but he goes with the left hand over a 7-footer in Jokic at the rim and is able to do like a left-handed hook shot over a 7-footer Jokic and make that shot. Like, just incredible stuff from AJ that you wouldn't expect from a rookie. And the way he's contributed is really, really impressive. So a lot of high praise continues for AJ Mitchell. I'm a really big fan and super curious to see how he develops throughout the rest of the season and how they continue to utilize him. The next one is Zeus. All positives for AJ Mitchell. Honestly, a lot of positives for Ousmane Dieng as well. I thought he was fantastic. Again, still some negatives, and we'll touch on that. But Ousmane Dieng had 7 points, 5 rebounds, only 2 of 8 from the floor, 1 of 6 from 3. I thought he had, I guess they called one of those 3-point attempts a 2. He must have had his foot on the line. But the thing to me that stands out, and Jacob texted us this, Nick was at the game, he tweeted about this, but his defense has improved so much. He's able to move much more laterally. He's able to stick with defenders, and he's playing much more strong. And I find that incredibly impressive. He's giving the Thunder some really good minutes. He got 21 minutes tonight, which was second most behind AJ Mitchell. And it worked really, really well. And so I continue to be really impressed with Ous and what we're seeing, and the improvement is the biggest thing. I didn't think Ous was going to quite get to this level, especially so quickly early in the season. I don't want to call it like, what's the phrase I'm looking for? I don't want to say like, it's kind of a hidden blessing or whatever that some of these Thunder bigs get injured and that results in more minutes for Ous, and we're getting to see this. At the same time, I think Ous is just taking full advantage of these opportunities with Chet obviously being out, even before then Hartenstein being out, because I think prior to that, just my guess is that Mark would have alternated games between like Ous and Dillon Jones, for example, who we'll get into next, kind of getting those early developmental minutes before the blue season really kind of gets going and one of them or two of them get sent down to the blue. And instead, what we've seen is Ous being a regular staple in the rotation, and I've been really impressed by the aggressiveness we've seen. And don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of, some defensive lapses from Ous. There's also, he continues to need to get stronger. And he's super young, obviously has a skinny frame. But I think about a play there, I think it was late in the third quarter, where he's driving to the rim. The positive is he was able to draw the foul and still get through contact and get a shot up and get to the free throw line. I believe he hit both free throws. But I'm watching him, like any other player, like starter on the Thunder, they're probably able to finish through that contact and at least get a shot up at the rim. Ous still has a little ways to go in that regard, but what we've seen from him is super positive. And then the last one's a little more negative. Dillon Jones. I'm sitting there, like I mentioned, my friend Joey, who's not a huge Dillon Jones fan right now, and I understand that. And Dillon Jones gets some burn in that second quarter. And when he did, that lineup did not look good. And honestly, Dillon Jones had some pretty loud mistakes, and he's had some loud mistakes. On one hand, you can say it's because he's a rookie, right? You need to give him some grace. On the other end, he's an older rookie. He's one of the oldest rookies, I believe, in this draft class. And so you'd want to see a little more from him. Ultimately, I just think the role that he's playing on this Thunder team is so different than what he's played in the past, where he's used to having the ball in his hands. And now he's being asked to kind of be this role player, still facilitate some, but kind of be like this backup front court guy. And I'm not sure that's necessarily what he's used to. I'm curious to continue to watch his development. But when I'm mentioning guys like Usman and AJ Mitchell, it didn't feel right not to at least mention what we've seen from DJ so far. And it hasn't been super positive, but that's fine, right? Like he'll get some reps in the G League. And one thing that I liked, I think was our guy Nick in the post game, asked each of J-Dub and AJ, who were on the podium together, just kind of talking about like their, being older players coming into the draft and having more experience in college. And one thing that J-Dub mentioned is, not only playing more in college, a couple more years in college, but then coming into an organization like the Thunder and having a coach like Mark Dignault, who allows you to come in and put you in these positions to make mistakes and learn from them, has been super positive for him. And AJ echoed that. So we need to keep that in mind when we're talking about DJ as well. But that being said, I mean, it hasn't been great. So I'm curious to see DJ's continued minutes, what those kind of look like, the reps he gets in the G League, and just kind of following his development through the rest of the season. Next up, fouls, free throws. It's interesting. The Thunder had 18 free throws. They were 7 of 18 from the free throw line, which is absolutely fantastic. But that's to 40 free throws for the Phoenix Suns. And one thing that makes a lot of sense, the Thunder are going to foul more because they're a very aggressive defense. We've seen this, especially when they're playing small like they are. And we've seen this throughout the regular season so far, all the way up through these 13 games that they've played. That being said, I believe they're up there. I don't want to say, I don't have the stats in front of me. I don't want to say they lead the league in drives, but they've been up there in the past 2 seasons, and they still aren't getting the calls. So you had a very angry Mark Dignault, or I shouldn't say a very angry, but you certainly had a frustrated Mark Dignault post-game, basically talking about how, I was going to see if I can find a quote. And I don't have it. But Dignault essentially mentioned, like, look, I'm going to kind of, fall on the sword for this because I want my guys focusing on the way they're playing, focusing on their offense, not worrying about the fouls. But Dignault's obviously very frustrated yet again, like it was last year when the Thunder aren't getting those calls and they aren't getting to the free throw line when they're driving to the rim as much as they are. And so it's just something to monitor. Last year when Mark did this, I can't remember if he got fined or not. Maybe he got fined, but then the calls started coming. So it's just something to monitor. I mean, the Suns doubling up the Thunder in free throws, more than doubling up the Thunder in free throws, is just absolutely insane to me, especially when the Thunder are driving to the rim as much as they do with the players they have playing small. It's kind of crazy. So I wanted to mention that. Hopefully it doesn't sound too homerish, but I think it's absolutely worth talking about. Thunder rebounding, honestly, not a whole lot to get into here other than just small ball. They out-rebounded the Suns 53-50. It's obviously been an emphasis for this Thunder team heading into the season. Chet was doing great with this before he got injured. And even without Chet going small, the Thunder have been playing very, very well, getting a lot of offensive and defensive boards and just battling down low. I've saw multiple possessions tonight that are live where Isaiah Joes, your shooting guard, is going down there and fighting and grabbing rebounds and scrapping. That leads to transition opportunities, which the Thunder are so great at. A lot of the guys mentioned that post game. And obviously we've seen how the Thunder are blowing out teams. It's all because of the defense getting those deflections, those turnovers, getting the defensive rebounds, and pushing the pace of transition. Thunder rebounding was incredible. And that effort continues to be when they're playing so small. My final one here is just the poor offense from OKC. It's kind of been a roller coaster this season. I think Kurt Goldsberry, I believe that's who it is on Twitter, who tweets out like the efficiency and has this pretty chart of all the teams. And I think it was here a week ago when he tweeted out, Thunder were at the very, very top of the defense. They were number 1 defensive team. And they were like, I don't know, almost 20 something in offense and still had like a number 6 net rating. A week later, which is kind of funny, ironic post-Chet injury. But the Thunder now have like the number 3 offense. Like I said, it's been a roller coaster. But tonight they shoot only 39% from the floor, 10 of 40. 39% from 3, 10 of 40. They hit 10 3-pointers. They were 36 of 91, so 40-ish% from the floor. I wish I had these stats pulled up, but the last time the Thunder shot under 40% and won a game, can't be too many games that they won. And yet they blow out the Phoenix Suns. Not quite by 20. It should have been 20 if the starters were playing, whatever. That just shows you, I think, again, the identity that this Thunder team has. It's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster, but this style of play, the things that they've built through this rebuild, the defense that they hang their hat on, pushing the pace in transition, that allows them to weather the storm when they aren't making their outside shots, when they aren't hitting their mid-range jumpers like Shea and Deb weren't tonight. And that's just incredibly, incredibly impressive. But the biggest thing offensively and a positive here is that the Thunder outscored the big, if you want to call them the big Suns in the paint. They have Nurkic, Thunder playing small ball. They had 48 paint points to 22 for the Phoenix Suns. That's a crazy stat. Again, just shows you that the Thunder's been getting more free throw calls, back to my prior point. But regardless, I found that incredibly fascinating. They just continue to get to the rim. They have so many great players who are so smart, playing off ball, cutting, getting to those spots. And I think that's kind of a lot of what we're seeing. At the same time, they're scrappy. They compete down low. They're physical, and they're able to get those paint points. So without a true center playing, with all their centers out, they score the Suns in the paint 48-22. So those are my big takeaways. Before we get out of here, let me go ahead and pull up the banner, if I can find it. Our King of the Prairie Artisan Ales Player of the Game. I went back and forth on this. I haven't talked about a lot of individual players tonight outside of the three young guys, two rookies, and Ousmane Dieng. So I went back and forth between Lou Dort, who had another really impressive game. The thing that stands out to me the most about Lou is his rebounds. Had 9 rebounds tonight, still scoring 15 points. I think I'm going to go ahead and give it to Shea, though. 28 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 11 of 25 from the floor. The interesting thing to me, 2 of 7 from 3. And we, like over the past week, post Chet injury, when Shea knew he had to turn it on, going against some tougher opponents, we saw him get back to what he does. Getting to the rim, hitting that mid-range shot, kind of shying away some from those three-point attempts and taking more within the flow of the offense. But in a night like tonight, and kind of similar to those first couple of regular season games, we've seen Shea experiment more with that three-point shot, and I think that's what we saw more of tonight. He only got to the line 2 times, 4 from the free throw line. That's different than what we saw here a couple games ago. But I found the three-point attempts interesting. I think that's something Shea will continue to experiment with. But the positive thing for me is that he obviously knows when he can in a game, when he can and when he can't. Like we saw over this past week, post Chet injury, Shea goes for his career high, isn't jacking up three-point attempts, but some of those look really good. And I think the biggest thing with Shea's 3 is the step back threes are almost automatic right now. The off the dribble, the catch and shoot, still a work in progress. So hopefully that continues to come around. But all that being said, let's see. I didn't mention his defensive stats. He only had 1 block. He had 0 steals, which is kind of uncharacteristic for Shea these days. But I thought Shea played just a solid game. Just another night in the office for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but nobody else had 20 points on the team. It was just kind of more of a effort by committee, and Shea really led that charge. So all that being said, I think that's all I have. Just another dominant performance from OKC, largely led by their defense and their small ball. Coming up Sunday, they have the Dallas Mavericks, which is really interesting. The Mavericks have not been playing well. They haven't been healthy either the past couple of games. Kyrie didn't play a couple nights ago, although I think he will be back tomorrow, as the Mavericks have a back-to-back. Luka's battling some small injury, as he always seems to be. But all that being said, the Mavericks are going to show up for that one because, there's a little bit of a rivalry brewing there. So I'm curious to see how these young guys and the small ball lineup it shows up for the game on Sunday. Obviously, we'll have you covered here on the Uncontested. We'll have our weekly group podcast after the game. Can't wait to cover it. Thank you all for joining in. And as always, Thunder up.